Hey friend, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time, welcome to the channel. Now in today's video, we are going to continue our in-depth Bible study of the book of Genesis, and today we are doing chapter 12. So get your Bibles and I'll cue the intro. So today we are going to start reading about Abraham, and I'm so excited because Abraham teaches us a lot about what faith really looks like. Not only what faith really looks like, but trusting God completely. We will also learn as we read Abraham's story over the next few weeks how and what God did and what the results were when they decided not to wait upon the Lord and what God promised Abraham and Sarah, but when they took it in their own hands, what then happened and what the results of that then was. So Abraham's story really is a great way for us to see what will happen if God has promised something to us and we don't wait upon the Lord, but also what happens when we trust God completely and how God will provide for us. So let's start reading. Now the Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." So Abram went as the Lord has told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the people that they had acquired in Haran, and they set out to go to the land of Canaan. When they came to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built there an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there he moved to the hill country on the east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord and called upon the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed on, still going towards Negeb. Now there was famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to Sarai his wife, "I know that you are a woman beautiful in appearance, and when the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' They will kill me, but they will let you live. Say that you are my sister, that it may go well with me because of you, and that my life may be spared for your sake." When Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. And when the princes of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house, and for her sake he dealt well with Abram, and he had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male servants, female donkeys, and camels. But the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What is this that you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say, 'She is my sister,' so that I took her for my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go." And Pharaoh gave men orders concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. So, first let's have a look at verse 5. In verse 5, it says that all of their possessions that they had gathered and the people that they had acquired in Haran, and they set out to go to the land of Canaan. So it wasn't just Abram and Sarai, his wife, but also the people that they acquired in Haran. Now, this would be people that they would basically own, or would be possible slaves or possible followers. Now, what we need to remember as slaves as well is that in that historical context, there was a lot of slavery, as we know, but slavery would also give you a chance to be able to receive meals, but then doing work for that. So you'll be taken care of. You won't be paid, but you'll be taken care of by getting shelter and getting meals, but then you would need to work for them. I'm not for slavery at all, but I'm just trying to describe to you the historical context of this time. So it wasn't weird or strange for you to have slaves in that time, at that historical context, in that historical time. Slavery was everywhere. That's what everyone did. Today it's frowned upon. We don't do that anymore, but in that day it was completely normal. So when they left and when they went to the land of Canaan, they took their possessions, and Abraham and Sarai went with their slaves or followers. It could also be their followers that they acquired in Haran. So then in verse 7, this is where the Lord appeared to Abraham and told him about his offspring and that he will give him that land. So this was the promise, and this is where the first altar was built. That's recorded. So the first altar was built by Abraham, which was then recorded in chapter 12, verse 7 onwards. What is also interesting, if we read verse 8, from there he moved to the hill country on the east of Bethel and pitched his tent. They lived in tents. So he was moving around, and that was completely normal for them to live in tents. So even though we would usually just read over that, it is actually good for us to pause and be like, okay, so even though we've seen movies and they've shown us tents to try and show us the historical context and what living was like, even though there were buildings, it was completely normal, especially if you were traveling, to live in tents. So I did pick up on that. Now, when we look at verse 10, it says that there was a famine in the land, and so Abram went to Egypt to sojourn there. Now, sojourn, or we would say a sojourner, is someone who's a temporary resident. So they'll just pass through. They won't live there. They're just passing through. So it's as if you were traveling from here to somewhere else and you're just passing through the town or city. It's also clear to us that Sarah, or Sarai over here, that she was beautiful. So she was beautiful, and Abraham knew that because Sarah was beautiful, the Pharaoh would most likely want to take her as one of his wives. So what we need to understand with this story about Pharaoh wanting to take, or already taking, Sarah as one of his wives, what would happen is if Sarah did say that this was her husband, Pharaoh would have most likely killed her husband, because it was completely normal for him to do, because he's the Pharaoh. He can do whatever he wants. So he would have most likely not spared Abraham's life so that he could get her wife, so that he could get Sarah, Abraham's wife. So Abraham had the idea before they entered Egypt, just for Sarai to let them create this lie to say that Sarai is not his wife, but Sarah is his sister. Now, I know that I'm saying Sarai and Sarah, but let me just quickly, while we on the first chapter of Abraham's story. So we're going to learn that Abraham's name, we all know him as Abraham, but he was first Abram. So his name was first Abram, and then God changed his name to Abraham. Now, I'm not going to give too much information because we're going to read more why God changed it and what the meaning of that name is, but we'll do that in the following chapters. But if you hear me going between Abram and Abraham, it is the same person. So Abraham's name was first Abram and then Abraham. Now, the same with Sarah. Sarah's name was first Sarai, so Sarai, and then God changed her name to Sarah. and that will also have a meaning to it, which we'll learn in the next few studies that we'll be doing in the next few weeks ahead. So, Pharaoh paid Abraham for Sarai with animals to take Sarah as Pharaoh's one of his wives. Now, Pharaoh did not just have one wife, he had many wives, so she would just have been one of his wives. So Abraham then received from Pharaoh as payment sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male servants, slaves, female servants or slaves, and female donkeys and camels. So this is the payment that Pharaoh gave Abraham to thank him that he could take his sister as his wife. Then it came out, because what then happened was they did not tell him or correct him afterwards. Plagues then came. So now, hang on. Sometimes or oftentimes we think that the plagues, that the first time that plagues appeared in the Bible was when Moses went to go back to Egypt to ask the Pharaoh to release the slaves and the Israelites so that they could go to the promised land. So, and because the Pharaoh said no at that time, which we will learn in weeks to come as we read Moses' story, we tend to think that that was the first time in the Bible that plagues appear. But it is not, because in chapter 12, with Abraham and Sarah first entering Egypt to sojourn there just to pass through, and then Abraham deciding to create this lie of trying to give his sister as his, or his wife as his sister away to Pharaoh, plagues was then sent to Pharaoh. So the plagues came which the Lord sent. So the Lord sent this plague to Pharaoh. And this was only because Sarai was not the sister, but actually the wife. So it was actually wrong. They shouldn't have done that. But Abram tried to ensure that his life would be spared. Now, because this would be very sinful for you to take someone's wife, or cheating, which is now, anyway, at that time, you would lose your life. Okay, if you were cheating and things, that wasn't like something that people just take as it is today. Cheating, you would lose your life for it. And that is why the Pharaoh would have killed Abraham for his wife. And it's crazy to me that he would have just killed him instead, in order not to sin, in order not to do something that would be morally so wrong. Just kill him in order for him to take his wife. And that's why they created this lie and say, no, it's not my wife, it's my sister. And they'll be like, okay, cool, thank you for your sister, I'll take her. Here is male and female servants and all these animals, go ahead as a gift, thank you so much. Now, because it's not right, God sent the plagues to Pharaoh, made Pharaoh realize that, oh no, he's like, there's something big, like massively wrong here. There's sin and things. My life is now not going well. Where did I make the wrong decision? What have I done wrong? And that is when he realized that Sarah was already married, because remember, marriage is a covenant, which means you already have a covenant with another person. So Pharaoh he just wanted them to get away from him, because he needed to get his life back right and get the plagues away, okay? So he then sent Abraham and Sarah, spared their life, sent them away and said, you can keep the male and female servants and animals, just keep them, just take them, just leave. And now they just passing through Egypt, it said that in verse 10, it says that there was a famine in their land where Abraham and Sarah first was, and then they went to Egypt to pass through and then go to the next town. So just to sojourn there, just to pass through. And now, as passing through, God used that to give them, and they got female servants, male servants, but also all these animals. So they literally walked through that town, journeyed through Egypt, not just town, country. They journeyed through Egypt and acquired more things, more belongings. Now, what we need to understand is, in that historical context, today we would think about money, monetary value. But back then, it wasn't about monetary value. It was about possessions and what you owned. So you wouldn't give just money away because it wasn't readily available to everyone. So you would give your belongings away. You would give animals away, slaves away, female and male servants away. That's how you would pay people or repay people oftentimes. So I thought that was also interesting. So that's it for this chapter, and I love Abraham's story, and I can't wait for us to dig a bit deeper as we move on to chapter 13 in the next episode. So if you have any questions, let me know. I pray that God will continue to bless you. Bye.